Presley, Derek in the booth. Talking football north to south. From high school fields to the Super Bowl. Spitting fire, ain't no doubt. Tailgate talk, where the legends speak. Breaking down the game all through the week. From the gridiron to the stands. We got the scoop right here in our hands. Red zone action, Hail Mary pass.
After taking shit all year long. It was like, yeah.
Good Sunday morning again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tailgate Talk Nebraska. Along with us, as always, Brian Denton down on the end, manning the controls, and it's going to be a long year until football season starts. I'm going to tell everybody that right now. We are in Jeff Green's house, and Jeff here with us as always. Thank you for the use of your casa here again this morning.
Thank you very much. I feel very humbled.
Well, it was 1 week ago today, Super Bowl 59 down at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, and all the hype coming up to it. And I will tell you this, guys, it was not a good game. The Eagles' defense made Mahomes. It reminded me a lot of the Buccaneer Chiefs Super Bowl from a few years ago. Mahomes just wasn't comfortable in that pocket and was running for his life.
Yeah, I was about ready to text in the halftime, but I didn't want to jinx it. But when it was 24-0, I was like, this looks exactly like the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
That defense had the best performance they could possibly have. And they didn't blitz at all.
Right.
They did it with a 3 or 4-man rush the whole time. And they got 6 sacks.
Yeah.
It's so was there something wrong with the Chiefs' offensive line?
I think the Chiefs took it too lightly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, you just didn't expect that to come out of them. Not like that. You know, they had the easiest path to the Super Bowl. Washington did all the heavy lifting over there. And then when they got Kansas City sitting there looking at that, and they just thought they would go do what they do.
Nope.
You take a look at it, and the Chiefs did one thing they had to do on defense, and that was take away Saquon Barkley. Barkley did not have a typical game for him. But it was the defense that set the tone.
It was definitely the defense. I mean, you know, everyone's talking all week about Hurts and how great his game was and how this solidifies him and all that. That offense did do nothing. The reason that offense scored points is because they were on the field all day.
Yeah.
I mean, there was 3 and out, interception, 3 and out, interception. I mean, you get that many choices, you're going to put points on the board.
Absolutely. Okay, so Philly played the perfect game that they could play. They did exactly what they needed to do. They didn't care that Saquon got taken away. They still tried to use him.
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen Hurts he deserved that MVP. I don't care what you say. He deserves it. He had 300 yards total almost. And he had 225 yards passing, 75 yards rushing, but the legs is where he took over the game. It wasn't necessarily his passing.
I'll give you that.
But then when it came crunch, when they had to take the shot, he laid it right in the breadbasket for Devontae. He threw a perfect ball. And everybody's like, oh, he can't pass. He dropped it in there, just like a elite quarterback.
Hurts played one of the best games he has ever played in that Super Bowl.
He's played 2 of his best games of his career in the Super Bowl.
Right.
No, you should see his stats in the Super Bowl.
It's
better than Mahomes.
In this game,
But Mahomes
Hurts
got the wins.
did what he
That's
had
okay.
to do. But
He's got one now, too.
Defense set him up for success in that game.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
Kansas City had, 20 yards at halftime?
what
Yeah.
Total offense?
23.
23 yards total offense.
Because Philadelphia had more points than they had yards.
The time of possession was over 20 minutes
Yeah.
to Philadelphia.
And this is what I don't understand. The Chiefs did not try to establish any sort of running game in the game.
Which
No.
made no sense.
You've got Pacheco and Hunt who have been running good all year. Okay, even if you're not successful, like the Eagles and Barkley were not successful, the Chiefs took it away. You got to at least have that in their mind. Otherwise, just like what we saw, the defensive line pinned their ears back and they were going right at Mahomes. And if you don't have that threat of they may run the ball on us here.
Kansas City's offensive line literally got pushed around.
Yes.
And I don't think anyone's done that to them.
Right.
No, nobody's done that to him
Yeah.
at all.
I mean,
And you got to give them a lot of credit, even though they didn't run the ball that well. Hurts was cleaning that pocket the whole game. That Eagles offensive
He had
line
all day.
all day.
He had all day.
It was like they just formed this beautiful pocket for him. Hurts sat in that pocket, and he could just survey the field. And I don't care how good your defensive backs are, you cannot cover a guy for 8 seconds. You know,
No.
it doesn't work that way. That guy is going to find a way to get open to where his quarterback can hit him. And, you know,
Kansas City just didn't play.
no.
They didn't even look like they were there.
Right. It was like they were still at the club
Yeah.
from the night before. I'm not saying they all went on and partied. I'm just saying they, you know, when they were walking in to the stadium, they were joking around, they were laughing, they were hyper. When Philadelphia walked into the stadium, they were coming to do work.
It was business.
Yeah, they were coming to do work. And the mentality showed once the play started. One team was messing around, thought they were going to easily do their thing, and one team came determined to make sure that they did their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Philly was on a mission. They were. They wanted to make up for 2 years ago.
And let's say one thing before we go any further. Congratulations, Cam Jurgens.
Absolutely.
Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowl in your first year
As a
the
starter.
starting center for the Eagles. Last year he was the starting guard for him, the right guard, but taking over for Jason Kelsey this year and starting at that center position. You're taking over for a Hall of Famer.
For a legend.
And Cam did such a great job.
Absolutely.
You know, so,
And you got to be proud of him just because
Yeah.
he's a Beatrice kid.
Yes.
You know, we all have ties to him. I worked with his dad out at Exmark. You went to high school with him. You know, I mean,
You did?
No, I didn't. He was around. No, he was younger than me.
oh,
Yeah.
he's
No,
younger
he
than
was
you?
younger than me. But I did work with his mom and them on
Oh,
the
yeah.
dealership.
That's right.
Yeah. So
But
Yeah.
yeah, Cam graduated a year after my oldest daughter, Beatrice here, and watching that kid in high school was just phenomenal.
As a tight end.
Well, tight end, running back,
Yeah,
punter,
whatever.
You know,
He did it
was
all.
one of those guys that you can say, Cam, I need you to carry the ball. Cam, I need you to throw the ball. Cam, I need you to catch the ball. You know, and he was athletic enough and good enough to do it. And you know, of all
I think the only thing Scott Frost did right at Nebraska
Yeah.
was move him from tight end to center
Yeah.
and tell him, you know, if you do this, you could be great.
Yes.
Well,
And Scott Frost was right.
oh yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing he was right about, but
Yeah.
well, this year he definitely set himself up well to take over for a legend.
yeah.
He's followed right in the footsteps. It's like there was no difference almost. I would say that the tush push isn't quite as effective as what it was, but it was. They developed it later in the year. The first part of the year he struggled, I think, trying to take over for what Travis does, Jason does.
Did you see
but-
Kansas City try to stop that with Chris setting up sideways?
Yeah.
And then he was on the sideline hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
No.
It was a good thought, but it didn't work.
It was good effort. You can't
Yeah.
take anything away from that. But,
I mean, it was a new try. They were trying to figure out something to stop it.
yep.
And it did look like it slowed it down a little,
Yes.
but eventually it just still ran over him.
Chris Jones has a lot of humanity to try to push.
Yes,
You know,
he is.
but you go back to that game, and completely honest, you know, yeah, if you were watching it for one of your two teams, but other than that, as far as a competitive game,
It was
like
pretty
we've
lame.
seen, it was kind of boring. I mean, in all actuality, it was kind of one of the most. It kind of reminded me of even though it was a high scoring game, the Rams Patriots Super Bowl from a few years ago. That was just kind of like,
It was a high scoring version of that game.
yeah,
Or like when Chicago and the Patriots played.
exactly.
You know, the opening kickoff. Yep, Hester took it to the house. That was the
That was
last.
Indianapolis.
That was
Oh, that's
Chicago and
Indianapolis?
Indianapolis.
That was Peyton Manning.
Still, that was a blowout.
Or Baltimore and the Giants.
Baltimore and the Giants.
Seattle.
That's truth.
Seattle and Denver.
That defense controlled us and ruined us.
Yeah. It just, you know, the Eagles came in and their defense knew what they had to do. And I give credit to Kansas City's defense.
Seattle, Denver. You had to bring that up.
Seattle and Denver.
I heard you.
Seattle crushed
Why?
Denver.
Yeah, but you know, Satan was involved in that game. I mean, two horrible programs met in the Super Bowl. It should have never happened.
Yeah.
But
I mean, kind of like this, you know.
Kansas City, you know, I'm still taking nothing away. 3 straight Super Bowls. They didn't perform in this one. You know, they came out, they laid an egg in this one. Mahomes tried to do everything he could. He showed why he is.
There's no reason for them to push panic button.
No.
Oh gosh, no.
I mean,
They're gonna be bad.
They're not looking to revamp the whole team or anything. They think they need a couple more wide receivers and maybe an upgrade on the offensive line a little bit. But other than that, they got the salary cap to go get it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not.
And you know, the Patriots lost 3 Super Bowls during their run. You know, so and one of them was to the Eagles. So
Well, let's look deeper into that. So, Pat Mahomes in what 6-7 years?
7 years.
7 years. He's never missed
The playoffs.
the playoffs. Never missed the AFC Championship game. Been in.
No, he didn't go to the AFC Championship
Yeah, he
game
did.
the first year.
Yeah,
they did. The Patriots beat them.
Patriots beat him.
Oh.
Yeah, on the
Offsides
outside.
when Brady threw the interception.
So, and then Tom Brady went 10 years without a Super Bowl after he won it in 2004.
Yeah.
So he's fine.
Oh,
Kansas
yeah.
City's fine.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing that could happen to them is Andy Reid retire. I think if Andy Reid retired, then we'll see what happens. But
That would
think
create a
as long as-
chemistry issue
It would.
Yeah.
because
It would.
Andy Reid is the perfect coach for this group of guys.
Yeah, I just don't know how
But I don't
Mahomes
see
would play under somebody else.
I don't think he's.
I don't see
close
Reid
to that.
retiring on a Super Bowl loss. Reid
Yeah.
will retire on a Super Bowl win,
Yeah,
and he will
I
go
agree
out.
with that in full.
I don't know if you'll see Travis Kelce out there next year.
I think he's done.
You know, win or lose, this could have very well been his last game.
He's
Did
done.
you hear that exchange between him and Brady over the course of the week afterwards? Brady made a comment that if he would have been paying more attention to his football instead of Taylor Swift, maybe they'd be wearing another ring. And he came back. Travis Kelce came back. Well, if you'd have paid more attention to your wife, you might not be divorced.
Well,
Big old Twitter battle.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I didn't hear about that one.
I didn't either.
I just laughed when I read the response back from Travis Kelce because
So
Brady made that choice.
So the Eagles, reigning Super Bowl champions going into next year,
Yep.
what do they need to do to go back for a repeat?
Get a new quarterback.
He's been to 2 Super Bowls. What are you talking about? You're an idiot. God.
I've heard Daniel Jones is available.
He is. Absolutely is available.
You know who else is available? Kirk Cousins is available.
Absolutely.
You could go ahead and get him.
I think what I'm seeing, we're going after
So-
Stafford.
So,
Which,
yeah, that's a.
I mean, you're giving up a first round, 3rd overall pick, and I don't see it. But
Yeah, but I think Philly just needs to keep their mindset. That's what they need. They're fine. If they stay exactly how they are, the only thing that they're going to lose probably, it sounds like Jordan Davis might be gone because he's going to want more money. But everybody's signed.
The other
They're fine.
their kicker's a little.
But he
He had
made all
all
his field
season.
goals.
He did.
He
He
made
did the
all his
Super
field
Bowl.
goals
He
in the
did the
Super
Super Bowl.
But he also didn't have any pressure.
None.
So, dude, I don't know. But the core of that team is set. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be at that level for a while. And as long as Howie Roseman's there in that core, they're going to be good.
God, that irritates me.
Now,
They could be back next year, but I don't think they'll make the Super Bowl next year.
I want to flash.
I don't want to
back.
hear that shit. You said that this year, and look where they ended up.
wanna
Said
flash
all
you back.
humble all year long.
I want to flash you back to Wild Card Weekend.
Yep.
Tampa Bay, Washington. Tampa Bay had a chance to win that game late.
Mm-hmm.
Washington kicks a field goal, wins it. Let's just throw the scenario out there that Tampa Bay somehow pulls that off. Are we talking about the Eagles as Super Bowl champions right now?
Yeah.
You think they go to Detroit?
I think after the run that they went on, I think now it wouldn't have mattered.
I'm just saying, like I keep pointing out that Washington did the heavy lifting. How did Washington win that game?
I think Detroit was the one team in the NFC that could have derailed them, especially playing in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all what
Hearsay,
if. This is all
whatever.
what if.
Yeah,
you
what
know,
ifs.
but
Hypothetical.
I'm just asking, do you think we're talking about the Eagles as Super Bowl champions right now?
I do.
If they would have had to have gone through Detroit.
Yes,
I
and,
still do.
and the reason I say that is because they scored the most points on a Super Bowl run through the playoffs of anybody in history. They put together a run in the playoffs we've never seen.
The reason why I say it is because Detroit lost to Washington, and
Washington got
annihilated.
annihilated.
And so that showed they were vulnerable in one way or another, but they were losing focus. They lost focus. Still, I mean, that bad game was going to happen even if...
I just don't think Detroit as a franchise is...
Because I hear what you're saying, because Tampa Bay was not going to beat Detroit.
Tampa Bay would have had to have gone to Philly. The
Oh.
Rams would have went to Detroit.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen either. But then I would have been dead set that there was no way Washington was winning that game.
Actually, throughout the whole
The
run,
Rams.
the Rams gave them the biggest
Right.
threat
Yep, the Rams were
in the
close.
snow game.
Now let's go the other side. Let's just say they suspended the refs 3 weeks ago, and they got a whole new set of refs for the Buffalo game. Would Kansas City been there? And would Philadelphia been a better game?
I think Philadelphia and Buffalo would have been a better game because I think Buffalo's offense is set up better than Kansas City's right now.
Absolutely.
But the defense on the defensive side, I don't know what that score would have been. I don't know.
I think that would have been a shootout. That would have been fun to watch.
I think it was a
honestly think Buffalo's offensive line and Kansas City's offensive line did not show up.
No.
But when you look at Kansas City's offensive line playing at their best,
Yeah,
it is a lot better than Buffalo's offensive line.
absolutely.
And so it depends if Buffalo would have came out. I still think if Kansas City would have came out and tried to establish some sort of running game, it may not have been like it was. But
Still would have been a blowout, but it wouldn't have been near as much.
through the ball. And I mean, if you're Vic Fangio, you're sitting there going, well, hell, they ain't going to run the ball against us. Let's just, you four guys on the front, don't even worry about a run. Go. Everybody else play pass defense. And that's what they were doing against Kansas City the whole time.
It was a mess.
Ah,
It was a
And
mess.
this is where I think it didn't matter who Philadelphia played because that was a team that was for each other. Like, that was a close team. I don't care who you are. The young guys jumped in when they needed to. Cooper DeJean had the interception for a touchdown in his first Super Bowl as a rookie. Braun made that hell of an interception there at it just boiled down to Philly was ready to play. Kansas
Yeah.
City wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mahomes, and Brady even talked about it during the game. When Mahomes would drop back, his feet were just moving. He wasn't just getting set.
When they got that back-to-back sacks on him,
Yeah,
his demeanor in the pocket changed.
Yep.
He got happy feet. He was scared to get hit. He was looking to run, looking to move the pocket. And when your quarterback starts looking to move before he looks to pass, you got problems.
but that was the other thing. Mahomes didn't really look to run in that game
No, he was
either.
but he was looking to move the pocket.
Yeah, he wanted to get out. He wanted to get out of the pocket because he knew it was collapsing on him every time.
He didn't know it was collapsing.
He thought he was.
He had the
He
voice.
felt it.
He
Yeah.
had the voices in his head. Ooh, gotta move. I'm gonna get hit. I'm
Well,
gonna get hit.
it was collapsing on him all day long.
Yeah.
With no blitz.
But the Eagles were doing a good job of maintaining that, and when he did try to move, they were there.
Yeah.
So
One of the things that makes Mahomes as good as he is, when he steps back in that pocket, he makes decisions fast and he makes quick throws. He didn't do that once. He stepped back and he gave them their 3 seconds to get to him. When Baltimore beginning of the year, when he did that last minute drive to come down to win that, he'd step back, he'd come back, and as soon as his feet are set, he was releasing the ball. Even if the guy was covered, he had confidence in things, and he was laying in darts.
Yep.
I
You know,
think this is one
he
of the,
didn't do that once.
The very first play of the game, he hit Smith Schuster on a quick slant.
Quick
It
slant.
got him 11 yards, and I thought, okay, here they go.
and then
but-
they didn't gain shit.
but
after-
then-
for-
That's
for
because
all
he didn't
that.
make that throw after that.
And the thing is, you don't know if it was his passes or were his receivers not running correctly to the right spots, because him and Kelsey did not make a connection, and
Well-
usually those guys are just synced.
And they were arguing
Yeah,
midway through the second quarter.
And then D Hop had the big drop
yeah.
on what was that, a third down?
Third down.
And he had a lot of room.
Kelsey
Yeah.
had a drop.
Yeah, Kelsey had a drop.
But
They
Holmes
just
stuck
weren't-
that one behind the guy and down low on a big third down when he was open. I mean, all he had to do was hit him.
But they didn't look in sync at all the whole game.
No.
I think this is good for Kansas City. I think it's good. They needed to be humble, in my opinion. I don't
Yeah.
think Kansas City's going anywhere.
It should have happened in Buffalo, so that it didn't happen against Philadelphia.
And that would have at least given Jeff somebody to root
Oh,
for
guess
at
what,
the
Jeff?
Super Bowl.
Yes,
Guess what, Jeff?
absolutely.
Our 2 Super Bowl wins
Yeah.
are against talent that is probably best quarterback talent we've ever seen.
Brady and Mahomes.
Okay. What were you trying to say?
I'm just saying.
I mean, you downplay the fact that Eli Manning beat Brady twice in the Super Bowl. Every time I bring that up, you act like that's just a side note.
Yeah, because
to
we
the
beat
deal.
Brady with a backup quarterback in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Nick Foles. If Nick Foles went to come in, you guys would have lost that.
And Nick Foles is a lot better quarterback than Carson Wentz.
Here, here.
I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
What has Carson Wentz done?
Um,
I mean, seriously, look at it.
No,
That one
no,
year,
seriously.
he was okay. He got him to the playoffs.
he won an MVP.
No, we didn't.
Okay, he was in the running,
But after that,
as you keep telling us.
So you're saying because Nick Foles rode his coattails through that playoff run.
Whoa! He didn't ride his coattails.
Yes, he
He was
did.
at the end of his career.
If it wasn't
If Nick Foles was in his prime, he would have won that job in the
if
preseason.
it wasn't for Carson Wentz, they would not have been in the playoffs in the first place.
and what I'm saying is, Wentz
That's
got
not
him
true.
to the playoffs.
That is 100%
Wentz
true.
got him to the playoffs.
Defense got
But-
into the playoffs.
I have not been. I mean, Wentz has been a perennial backup since then.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Wentz was a
And-
perennial backup when he came into the league.
When they took him, yes, he had a lot of success at North Dakota State, but so did Trey Lance.
His problem was Doug Peterson was his problem. But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion.
Yeah, but the one thing
Doug Peterson did not deserve a Super Bowl.
The one thing I'll give Doug Peterson is he didn't need some big, goofy-looking guy standing next to him at every game. I mean, what is the deal with Big Dom?
Don's been there for
No, I know.
Yeah,
he
but
has.
what's the deal?
That's what I'm asking.
What
why,
does he do?
it. That happened ever since he got suspended. they started putting all this attention on him. Remember when?
Right.
What game was that? Where it was against the Niners.
Yeah, when he grabbed that guy.
Yeah, where he.
Yeah.
That's where it happened. It's
No, I
not.
know, but I mean, I've never seen another coach have somebody like that with them. I mean,
I think that's more of the media thing
Are
than
they
anything
like-
because they attach the big dom, so they want to
no,
see it.
I know you're saying it's a media thing. It's like Kelsey and Swift, but why? What is his role?
He's security.
But
He's
they
sideline
have-
security.
They have security
No, he's sideline security for the Eagles.
for Sirianni, right?
No, for the whole team. He's the whole team's security. Yeah,
Okay,
he's been that way for 15 years. He's been on the sideline.
For the Eagles.
Yeah, for that long.
So he didn't come with Sirianni.
No, he did not come with Sirianni.
I thought he came with Sirianni.
No, he was there before Sirianni.
Yeah, I've never.
It's just
figured
ever since the Niners game where he got suspended. It's just they tried to put attention on him.
I have to say it.
But Sirianni does put himself in positions that he probably shouldn't. So I'm just saying.
So I'm gonna say this once to you, Brian. I'm sorry that I treated you so badly over the course of the year about the Philadelphia Eagles. I was wrong. Not very wrong very often. I was wrong about the Philadelphia Eagles. They played a great season. They put their things together. But if you think I'm going to sit here on this show and sit here and keep throwing compliments their way, you are insane. It's
okay.
not happening.
Well, I'm not throwing compliments the Giants' way either, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
Especially since, in your lifetime, you hadn't really seen it.
What?
The Giants in their heyday. I mean,
Well, according to you, the Giants' heyday was Eli Manning.
I
saw
he
that.
won 2. But that wasn't their heyday. Their heyday was definitely the late 80s, early 90s.
Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence
and all that.
Taylor.
Yeah, I was too young for
And
that.
the big blue defense.
I want to
that
ask
was a
Jeff one
wave.
question. How many Giants quarterbacks have won Super Bowls?
None. Or no, sorry, Giants quarterbacks?
3.
3.
Eli?
I knew you were going to ask me to name them. But they were about the defenses back in the day. It was all about Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, they put up quite a few points against the...
Collins?
No. Kerry Collins got destroyed by
Yeah,
the Ravens.
That was Ravens. Yeah,
Phil Simms won the first one for him.
that's right.
Phil Simms out of what college? Do you know?
No.
Every man's favorite college, Morehead State. And then
I'll pull that on my ass.
Jeff Hostetler
Oh, yeah, it was Hostetler.
came in and
Came off the bench.
he was a backup.
He was a backup.
Simms got him too. He was the number Bulls that year, but it wasn't Hostetler in that Super Bowl. It was Otis Anderson that carried them against the Bills in that game. And that one was a very close game, 20-19, I believe, over the
Yeah, we
Scott
kicked
Norwood.
a field goal right as time was expiring. That was the Bills' best chance to ever win the Super Bowl. It was
Yep.
their first one of the 4 straight, and then they got blown out the next 3.
Hostetler was from what college? Do you know? West Virginia. Pat McAfee.
Now, the Bills, when they had that stretch there, right? The reason they lost all 4 was because Thurman Thomas never showed up
To any of the games, right?
to any of the games, and he had an average of 3 fumbles per game in those 4 games.
So let's have this conversation real quick, because this conversation does come up a lot of times when it comes into like programs that are elite programs. And me and you have had this conversation several times.
Yeah.
So if you go back in their history, I'm not taking away their history. If they were good back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, it doesn't matter.
That's their stretch.
Yes. But to me, after a certain point makes a difference as well. Because if you haven't been relevant since the 80s, why do we keep throwing you love?
Because
that makes sense.
Well, like for
Like the
example,
Cowboys. Okay,
well,
let's
let's
use
talk
the
about
Cowboys.
Philadelphia. The first 50 years of their existence in Super Bowl time, they did nothing. But yet, though they had fans that kept throwing them love.
You're walking right into my argument. So Philly in the first up until 2000, right?
Yeah.
Was they
non-existent. They were dormant.
They went to 1 Super Bowl. Yeah, one Super Bowl.
1980.
Yep, and they lost, but they didn't really have they were mediocre. They were a 500-ish team, but since 2000, they have the most wins in the playoffs besides the Patriots. They have how many NFC East championships? I think it's 11 or 12, something like that. So they've been a great program since 2000 when Howie Roseman came in. That's when they really started changing. So does that make... What point do you put a program into the elite conversation? When they're like Kansas City's a prime example as well. Kansas City was nothing besides the first Super Bowl they had way early, and then they went on a run.
First two.
No, 1 and 4. Super Bowl 1, they lost to the Packers.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 4, they beat the Vikings.
Yeah, but they won one early, like when the NFL first assembled, and then they went 50 years
Yeah.
with that. But now they're one of the better programs we've seen.
Well, no.
So where does that
they,
come in?
They have a run. Going.
When you think of...
That's what I'm saying.
They're not an elite program.
So the Patriots aren't either.
They're not a blue.
The Patriots aren't either.
Well, wait.
No, they're not. Because besides that run with
The Patriots were making differences back in the 80s, and
no, they weren't.
yes, they were.
No, they
And
weren't.
then in the late 90s when they had Drew Bledsoe, right before Brady came in.
Are you high?
I am not high. They
haven't done
They
shit.
were a competitive team.
Okay, so under your logic, if that's the case, the Patriots are not a blue blood or whatever you want to call it. They're not, because they only had one stretch that was great.
Okay, but the Patriots have the most Super Bowl wins of any team in the NFL.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
You had one stretch.
It
You had one
matters.
When you look...
That stretch was over 20 years.
You're making
That
my
stretch was
argument.
over 20 years.
You're making my argument.
Here's the thing. When you...
And it went through two different quarterbacks, not one set of group.
You got to look at...
went through one quarterback.
No.
Drew Bledsoe wasn't part of that.
Absolutely.
Drew Bledsoe will even tell you he wasn't part of that shit.
Bledsoe led them to one Super Bowl. They lost to the Packers. Brett Favre and the Packers beat the Patriots that year.
Yep.
But the thing is, when you look at what I say elite teams in the NFL, you got to look at the Super Bowl era, but then you got to look at before the Super Bowl era too. Because
But can we? Can we throw that in? Because it's
Why?
not the same. It's
Yeah.
a different league.
but
It's a
it was
different time.
still- right?
It's
but
the
it was
same.
Still,
It's to me. That's the argument is the same as college when they just voted the national champion. Like now, it's a completely different thing because you have to win the national championship, right?
you have to, yes, but
But
you're. the
But you
thing
know, back
is-
then, that was a 10-game playoff. Because back when they voted it, you lose a game, you were done.
I understand.
You
that,
know,
but
I mean, you couldn't have a bad day.
What I'm saying is-
in November.
what I'm saying is, if you're looking at it and you're looking at the teams that are elite or blue bloods, whatever you want to
Programs.
call it, programs.
Okay, I'll give you a reason.
Franchises.
I'll give you a reason why Kansas City and Philadelphia don't go into the league. There was a large period in that time where they would draft players, and then by the time the trade deadline comes, they would sell them off for the money because they weren't interested in going to the playoffs or making it. They were in it just to make money, and they'd use their players as commodities.
Fun fact.
That shows that they are not in it to win it.
Fun fact: Philadelphia had the very first pick overall ever in 1930 or 19.
Now let me ask you this: so, what do you consider elite programs? Programs that win championships, programs that make the playoffs, programs that have winning records.
To me, it's a combination.
Okay.
To me, to be the elite, you have to win a championship. You just have to. That's
So are
a,
the Packers elite?
See, that's a tough one, isn't it?
So do you throw the Packers as an elite program? Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl, won. Brett Favre won a Super Bowl, won.
yeah,
But if you go back to the '60s,
yeah. They were.
they were the team.
Yeah, I guess.
They were the Patriots.
To me, I would say now no. In the heyday, yes, but now they're not.
Okay, but if
But
you're
they're a
looking
blue
at the
blood
NFL,
program. Everybody knows the
Okay,
Packers.
Green Bay.
I think Green Bay, the reason that they haven't had more success is because of the way they ran, for one, and two, because they're underperforming team. They're just underperforming.
I think that, it's a combination of everything, like you said, but it's by the attitude of the team in general. There are teams that want to win. There are teams that just want to compete.
Right.
And Green Bay has always wanted to win. And they've always put their best foot forward in their situations. Like, for example, the Giants right now are in danger of losing that as a reputation because their front office is horrible and is not making good decisions and have us in the worst position ever. And at this point, we are borderline losing our elite status because we're going through a period where they're just looking on how to make money to continue playing, not winning.
Because to me, the Cowboys were the team through the 60s and the 90s. Didn't they have
70s, 80s, 90s?
Yeah.
Right, they were the-
80s. They were
Pittsburgh.
down. 80s,
Pittsburgh
they
is
were down.
an elite program.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they always
But
tried for the best.
here's the thing, and here's the thing everybody's got to realize. You are not, what the Patriots did towards the end of Brady's career with them, okay, like you said, he went 10 years.
Yeah,
okay?
that's it.
He won, upset the Rams, then he beat the Eagles and the Panthers in the Super Bowl, and then he went on a cold streak. You had Roethlisberger, Manning, and all the rest of them taking over the Super Bowls.
Well, man, he had to get
But-
out of the,
He won one with Indiana.
yeah, he won one.
He won
In that
one.
stretch.
But it didn't have to beat the Patriots to get there. They lost
Ravens.
to the Ravens.
But what I'm saying is, when you look at the Steelers in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
with their steel curtain defense, with Terry Bradshaw, with Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Franco Harris, all those guys. Okay, what you
Blood and
didn't
guts.
have back then was free agency.
Yeah.
What you didn't have was a guy saying, "Oh, hey, this team's going to pay me more money. I'm going to go here." Yeah, you had guys that left. You had
Yeah,
guys that
more
got traded. You had that kind of stuff, but it wasn't like it is today. It wasn't about the money back then.
No.
And you can look at every sport, baseball,
And you
football,
you played for the
basketball.
city. You played for the people of that city.
You played for that team.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You take a look at a guy like George Brett in baseball. George Brett was a Royal. Kirby
Mm-hmm.
Puckett was a Twin. Don Mattingly was a Yankee.
Derek Jeter.
Ryan Sandberg was a Cub.
Derek Jeter actually he's a newer name.
Yeah.
That
Probably one of the newest.
stayed home.
Yeah.
And God, you got to give that man respect for that.
But
Yeah.
you go back even further. Mantle, Maris, all
Yeah, they
those
didn't-
guys.
they didn't-
leave. They didn't want to jump.
You could do that with football too.
Right, and that's what I'm
Your
saying.
Montanas,
And Montana did leave to go to Kansas City for a couple of years,
Yeah,
but
that's-
that was because Steve Young was coming
Yeah,
in. And,
because the San Francisco was done with it
right,
at that point.
Jerry Rice, same way. You think of Jerry Rice, you think of him as a 49er,
Yep.
even though he was with the Raiders and the Seahawks both. But he was on the downhill
Downhill
side,
side.
and
Yeah, he was a
Terrell Owens had taken over that spot.
But they didn't bounce around in their prime.
But like you said, Jordan Davis
Mhm.
possibly won't be back.
Yeah.
Okay, why?
More money.
Exactly. And that's what the NFL has come to. More money. So you can't sit there and say, well, this team's elite, because think back to NBA basketball and the Miami Heat, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. They bought them. They bought
Yeah.
a championship
Yeah.
down in Miami.
No, I get it.
And so
They didn't do that in the 80s. They
the
didn't do that in the
Yankees-
90s.
The Yankees now are trying to buy championships. The Dodgers are trying to buy championships. And who was in the World Series last year? The Dodgers and the Yankees.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s,
Yankees didn't show up.
no. But back in the 70s, the Yankees-Dodgers World Series was like elite. But
Right.
those were guys that they had built through their system
Right.
and brought in.
Right.
Now, Reggie Jackson, okay, he was kind of one of those first to start jumping around and taking the money. So when you talk elite in the NFL right now, you got to take the whole broad prospect of it. So do I consider the Packers an elite elite football team? Yes, I do.
Too.
Do I consider the Bears an elite football team? Yes. George Halas and what
Yeah.
they used to do back in the day,
They
they didn't win.
got history.
They didn't win Super Bowls. They won one. They've been to 2.
Them two programs, I think, because they're kind of the first programs.
Right.
Not just the first programs, but they had success.
Yeah, I get.
I mean,
They've
yes,
had
the Latin-
sustained success.
Sustained success.
You know,
That's right.
the Cowboys, even though they haven't had any Super Bowls since 1990s, are an elite team because of what they did in the 70s and what they did in the 90s. And
But
earlier.
even during this stretch, you still preseason picked them to win the division
Right.
every third year, every fourth year.
Yeah.
Because they have talent. They're trying. I mean,
No.
Jerry Jones holds them back, but they're trying.
Do you have teams that jump up and win a Super Bowl and go to it? Do I consider like these newer teams like the Panthers and the Jaguars? No.
No.
Panthers have been to a couple Super Bowls, but I don't consider them elite. Do I consider
Denver.
teams?
There's a good example of a non-elite group. You
See,
know,
I
they
would
just
disagree with you.
They just pop up there every now and then. They rode Terrell Davis all the way to their Super Bowls that they did win.
I disagree with you, but that's okay.
The Chargers.
We can have this conversation another time.
The Chargers, the Seahawks are not elite teams. The
No.
Rams, I don't even really consider an elite
No.
team, even though back in the day they did have some decent.
I think the problem with the Rams is they started bouncing from city to city.
Right.
And when they started bouncing from city to city, they lost some of their allure.
Now let's talk about a team that's bounced from city to city, and the Raiders.
I don't consider the Raiders in there. I don't.
I did when they were Oakland.
The
When I was growing up,
Like in the grand scheme of the whole.
right? But when I was
Team,
growing up, they
see.
were one of the teams.
Yeah, I get it. They had their stretch, but I just don't see them as a team.
but
That's
the
in that
Raiders
conversation.
also could never beat the Steelers.
Never.
They could not beat the Steelers, and that was part of that issue. But I mean, you could go through. Now the
They
Patriots.
played dirty. They were mean.
Not to disagree with Jeff, but the Patriots, until Brady started his runs, Bledsoe had 1 Super Bowl. Tony Eason led him to the Super Bowl against the Bears, which was an upset on Dan Marino and the Dolphins. So I don't consider the Patriots elite until Brady took them over because they didn't have that success. They didn't have.
That's okay. So that's where I'm getting to now.
Mm-hmm.
So like, where do you put these teams in at? Because eventually they got to get put in. Eventually,
They do. And, you know.
if they keep proving it and everything, they got to be put in. But the Patriots are not, because now that's disassembled. We don't know what they're going to be.
Right.
But Philly's making a case for themselves.
That's why you hear
In the last
people-
25 years. No, and seriously, if you look at the last 25 years, they're making a name for this because they're consistent.
Push that homer button. Push it hard. Hit
It's
it twice.
just reality.
But you have teams,
It's reality.
You know, the Steelers were the team of the 70s. The Niners were the team of the 80s. The Cowboys were the team of the 90s. And that's kind of how you look at them. But
Patriots 2000s,
Yes.
And the Chiefs now.
2010s,
Right.
2020s.
So, but-
there's not a Philadelphia era yet.
I don't think they're there yet.
There's not a Philadelphia era.
Has Philadelphia been successful? Yes. Philadelphia has been successful. And, you know, Andy Reid
Was the
a
big
huge
part of that.
Huge part of that. When
He's
he
the
had
winningest coach
McNabb.
for both teams.
Right. So Andy Reid was a huge part of the Eagles' success back in those days. But look, when Reid left,
They went through a stretch.
until they went
Yep.
to the Super Bowl that year with Doug Peterson,
Yep.
they weren't relevant. They weren't as relevant as what they were when Reid
No,
was
but
there.
they snuck into the they were a playoff team here and there,
Right, but
but they
were
never went to the bottom of the barrel. Besides 1 year with Chip Kelly,
Yeah.
when they went 4 and whatever it was.
Right.
When Sean McCoy and him were going through their
But
shit.
they were never a team in that era, in that stretch, that you were like, oh man, hey, watch out for the Eagles this year. They're going to be they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
That started in 2017 when they won the Super Bowl. And then they went.
But they
through
weren't even predicted to go to the Super Bowl that year.
No, I wasn't even expecting them to do anything that year.
Right. And so they got back a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs beat them. Got back this year. They win it again. So they have had a decent stretch over these last 8 years. But can they continue that? Can they continue that? If they keep the core,
Yeah.
could be. But you're going to have a team jump up. Look at what the Commanders did this year.
Mhm.
They've been irrelevant for how many years?
And
That
that going
is-
forward is just getting better.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I'm not.
I hear what you say.
Yeah.
Historically, though, the NFC East is probably the more dominant program overall. If you go top to
Division?
bottom. Yeah, division.
Absolutely. The NFC East is the best division in football over time.
Yeah, so that's another thing. They play in a tough division. The Eagles, the Giants, they're a tough division where the Chiefs, besides maybe LA here and there, what have they had to compete against until this year?
San Francisco. You know,
No,
they're,
what I'm
they're
saying,
in a bad
in their
division.
division.
Yeah,
Oh,
San Francisco's in a bad division.
The Patriots were in a terrible division
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
whole time.
Absolutely.
So where does that come into play?
The thing is with Kansas City, if you look at when they first started doing or started winning with Alex Smith and when Andy Reid came in, at that point in time, sorry Jeff, the Broncos were still relevant
They were.
with Peyton Manning.
Mhm.
And the Chargers were always kind of that team that everybody's like, well, they could be good. Back then, the
And they're
Raiders,
still that team.
yeah, the Raiders were not as bad as they are now. You know,
No,
now,
they're terrible now.
but if you look at this, you talk about the NFC East. Were the Giants relevant this year?
no.
So were the Cowboys relevant this year?
No.
They almost got it at the end. I'm just saying they weren't relevant. No, but what I'm saying is that
Right. And over the last few years,
historically, though, they're relevant.
but over the last few years, since Eli's left, the Giants haven't really been.
No, the
They
Giants
had
have been
that
the down.
one run a couple years ago where Dabo took them to the playoffs.
Ah,
But
And
then
that was
Washington-
my pure chance.
Yeah.
And then they got a good pull with a very weak Vikings team.
and since the '90s, the Cowboys. I mean, people have predicted them to go to the Super Bowl, but they haven't been. Nobody's scared of them. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely not.
Nobody is scared of them, and the Commanders / Redskins / Washington football team, whatever you want to call them,
Dallas, you just got to wait. Give them time. They'll make a mistake.
yeah. And Washington over the last few years has not been. So I see your point on that, but the Eagles have been consistent in a time where those other three teams have kind of been down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, but in the NFL,
But I disagree with you because there hasn't been a repeat champion of that division in what, 12 years?
okay.
Something like that?
So
Yeah.
you look at it that way. Have the Eagles played down to their competition?
But they have the most in a stretch of since 2000.
Okay.
They have the most division championships
Right.
since.
And that's what I'm saying. But if you look at those other teams in there, besides the Giants with those couple years with Eli.
Philadelphia didn't play down. The other teams made a couple good runs.
Right. So that's why
Yeah.
they won the East in
Yeah.
those years.
Because let's just be honest. Last year, when the Eagles went through their downfall, that team was not that bad.
Is there any
It
other
was coached.
division that has all four teams that have Super Bowls under their belt?
East, the NFC East is the only team.
Yeah, I think so.
Every team has a Super Bowl, and
And
it's
a Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
yeah, and multiple, and multiple.
And multiple, yeah, because twos are least.
Right.
Yeah, the Eagles at two.
I think-
I mean, our bottom of the barrel in the NFC East is Philadelphia and Washington.
Right.
But I saw this the other day. They are the only division that has
Yeah.
Yeah.
every team has a Super Bowl.
Yep.
So
So to the NFC East.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you can't.
So let's be honest. Like when you're talking programs, right? Every one of them teams in that division have an argument to be in that conversation.
So your point to all this though is you want to know when Philadelphia is going to be part of the elite program.
What do they have to do to get there?
What do they have to do to get there?
In your opinion, which I know is going to be irrelevant, but it doesn't matter.
You know, you got to stay competitive over the next 10, 15 years. And you got to win.
They've been competitive for 25 years now. How? Like, seriously.
Okay, but we just talked. They had that stretch.
They
That's
did have a
great.
stretch.
So
Of what?
8 years.
3 years. There was a stretch of 4
When did Reed
years.
leave?
Huh?
When did Andy Reid leave?
Shit. I don't remember what year it was off the top of my
I
head.
think at this point, you have to have 4 more Super Bowls.
Are you fucking high?
You win 2 more, we'll talk.
Oh my god.
You know, you guys win 1 more, and maybe. But,
Let's just, okay. Here. Let's say this course stays.
okay.
Let's go a 5-year stretch. Let's just go a 5-year stretch from here now.
Yeah.
They never miss the playoffs.
Okay.
Let's say they go to.
They win another one?
Let's say they go to 3 championship games and they win another one.
Is Hurts still the quarterback?
Does it matter?
It does.
No, it does.
It does.
What is? I don't understand everybody's dislike for him.
Because he's
All-
not that good.
He wins.
Oh.
What more do you want? Seriously, he's got a great record. He's got a great team around him. Yes, I understand that. But, as I keep saying, without him, they don't win.
Okay.
Period.
That's
Let's-
not true.
Let's put it this
There's a
way.
lot of quarterbacks that we could put in there that would win with that team.
It's true. Seriously, you look at their seasons.
That's
last
because
year-
they pick horrible backups, except for Foles.
Last year they didn't have a bad backup.
Who was their backup last year?
Mariota was their backup.
Yeah.
He's not bad,
He's not
but
good.
he fits in exactly to their system.
But flip this around. Okay, let's do
God
this.
forbid Kansas City, Mahomes got hurt.
Well,
I mean, they had Wentz.
You guys
this
were,
year.
no, I'm just saying. Last year they had Minshew, right?
Yeah.
They lost 2 games with Minshew,
Absolutely.
and then Minshew got a starting job.
Oh.
For a few weeks.
No, they were pretty relevant for a while.
Stop it.
The,
Indianapolis, when he went to Indianapolis. And then they moved to go, because he had that bad stretch.
well,
Here's the deal.
Richardson was a starter. and then-
Let's talk about this
They got hurt.
because we're gonna have this as a debate in a future show.
Yes.
Therefore, what is the possibility of a rematch next year?
I think there's a really good possibility. I think a possibility of 60% or more.
Wow.
But here's the thing, and here's what I'm going to do with you. You talk about Hurts, okay? He's got A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, and that offensive line. Okay.
Yep.
Now, let's flip and put Jalen Hurts as a Commander starting quarterback and Jaden Daniels as the Eagles starting quarterback.
I would take Hurts any day.
No, I'm just saying, does Jalen Hurts lead the Commanders to the NFC Championship game this year with what he has as a Commanders
McCary?
quarterback?
And
I don't know because they're very similar.
Brian Robinson.
They're very similar quarterbacks. So.
Okay. Does Jaden Daniels win the Super Bowl? With the
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't think so.
Eagles? Okay.
Absolutely.
Flip the 2 quarterbacks here. Mahomes is the quarterback for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is the quarterback for the Chiefs.
See, I tried to use that argument last time when they played Tampa Bay.
What's that?
I tried to use the argument that if you flip the 2 quarterbacks in the Tampa Bay Kansas City Super Bowl,
Yeah.
that Super Bowl is not near as close if Brady's the quarterback to the Chiefs in that Super Bowl.
Well, it wasn't close anyway.
No, what
But-
I'm saying is it would have been even worse.
Yeah, because Brady's not mobile.
That's what
like
I'm saying.
Mahomes.
You flip.
But I'm
I
saying
don't think it mattered. I think
Mahomes as a quarterback for the Eagles in this Super Bowl, and Hurts as a quarterback for the Chiefs in this Super
if
Bowl.
Mahomes was on the Eagles team, he'd throw for 400 plus yards probably every.
Even how he played.
But
he
he
would
would
have
have had a
the
better
line.
offensive
He would have
line.
the line.
He would have had the line to block for him and wouldn't have been under pressure. Hurts would have been under pressure, and I think Hurts throws 3 to 4 picks as well. Like,
I
Mahomes.
don't disagree
Okay,
with you.
I agree
but,
with that.
But what I'm saying is like, what does that really tell us? Does it? Because Mahomes is a better quarterback for sure. I'm not arguing
Yeah.
that fact. but he's a different type of quarterback than Hurts is. Hurts is a RPO quarterback. That's what he is.
Right.
That's the way that team's built, is for RPO.
You put Hurts on Buffalo and put Josh Allen on Philadelphia. Hurts and Buffalo fall apart. Philadelphia gets better and stronger and wins
I
3
disagree
straight
with
Super
you.
Bowls.
Because the first year that Hurts was a starter, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had nothing. They had nothing, and they went to the playoffs. He took them to the playoffs the first year as a starter, and they had no reason to be there. They got annihilated by Tampa Bay that year in the first round of the playoffs. They deserved no right to be there. They should not have been there, but they got there because Hurts played well.
Like I said earlier.
Hurts was the main reason why they went to the playoffs.
Like I said earlier.
So are you going to
They had a
penalize
great
him?
season.
Are you
They got
gonna
a Super Bowl? And if you think we're going to sit here and talk up Hurts, who is a mediocre quarterback in the league, it's not happening.
He's not mediocre. He's proving. So you guys are going to penalize him as a quarterback
for a slow release.
No,
For not looking downfield
having
when
a
he's
team
running.
No.
For taking.
No, seriously. The argument is he's not elite quarterback because of what he's got around him, right?
No.
That is the argument.
The problem is when you look at him, like put him in the combine. He has a slow release. He has slow decision making, and he looks to run. When he starts to run, he's not looking downfield. Once he makes a decision to run, he's running. There is no like Mahomes moves out and still looking downfield and then makes the decision to run at the last minute. That's not him. He's a lesser Lamar Smith. Jackson.
He's built a lot like Lamar Jackson, but he's better than Lamar Jackson.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Oh.
He's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. I will put that up there right now.
I can't do this.
Here's my deal.
I don't care.
Here's my deal with, and no, I'm not penalizing for having a great team.
No.
I'm saying you got to look at what Mahomes has done with
Less.
Kelsey, Tyreek, but besides that, he doesn't have those elite guys around him. Does he? You take those two guys.
Yeah.
Okay, he has D-Hop, who back in the day was one of the best ever, but D-Hop's declined.
No,
Xavier
let's be
Worthy's making up.
let's be realistic
Okay, but
though.
Xavier was a
Kansas
rookie.
City is a well-built team. You know, they don't have a lot of elite players like Philadelphia in all of their strong spots, but that is a well-built team. Everybody knows their jobs, and they do very well in their jobs. So, I mean, and they're cohesive. They have good team chemistry. So, there's a lot of quarterbacks that can go in there, and if they can get the chemistry with that team will produce.
The Eagles, to me, are, and I'll say Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than this team's quarterback, but the Eagles' skill players are rivaled by the Niners. You got McCaffrey, you got Ayuk, you got Debo, you got Kittle. They have some elite skill players out in San Francisco. Philadelphia has Barkley, Smith, Goddard, Brown. So you look at what those guys do. Now, if you took Jalen and put him to the Niners,
I don't think it.
and they were all healthy,
I don't think it changes.
I think they
they're
become a
very
lot better.
I think the Niners are better.
Purdy?
Yes.
I think the Niners are
Yeah.
better.
Yes.
I would take Hurts over Purdy.
Yeah.
Denny, would you take Hurts over Purdy?
Hell yeah,
If
he
you're watching.
would.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
don't know why you wouldn't, but
Well,
I'm just giving him a hot
you know,
dog.
Purdy was a darling story and all that, and that story is about done.
And my thing is, when you look at what I consider elite quarterbacks, okay, is Josh Allen.
Yes.
He
Yes.
takes his team above and beyond without the big time skill players. Yeah, James Cook had a decent year.
Without Josh Allen, that team's not even in the playoffs.
Right. Right.
So yes, he's in that conversation.
Are they in the playoffs without Mahomes?
No.
No, they're not.
No.
Their defense might win a few games.
Are they?
Without Hurts?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many quarterbacks you can put in there that will still win.
They're not there.
They could be though.
The history shows when he when he doesn't play, they
That's
lose.
because they have bad backups.
But it depends who you're talking about. Who are you putting in those? So you take
You
Josh
take the
Allen
top
out.
15 quarterbacks.
So are you asking
take the
me
top
to
15
say who I would take over Jalen?
Wait, you
Is
take
that
the
what you're
top
asking?
15 quarterbacks and start filtering them in through all these teams, and Eagles stay one of the number one teams with any of the top 15 quarterbacks.
What I'm saying is, if you took every quarterback off the NFL and you reset the NFL and you had a draft, and the first round was nothing but quarterbacks, where would Jalen fall?
15, 16, 17, somewhere
No,
there.
it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Where would he fall?
I actually want to have a show that we break this down because I think we could get really deep into this.
Yeah, we could.
But like obviously you go through it. You got your Mahomes is obviously there. You got your Josh Allen's obviously there. Joe Burrow's on the cuff, but I don't know what to think of Joe Burrow yet. I just don't.
I'm just saying, you're starting an NFL team and you can pick any quarterback in the NFL right now, and you're going down the list. That's what I'm saying. You don't have any
Mahomes
other
is that
players.
guy.
You don't have any other players. You're building that team, but you're
Right.
starting with your quarterback.
I think
Right.
I'd take Burrow if I had the number one pick.
If I had to build my team, obviously I'm taking Mahomes. I'm not an idiot.
Right.
But if Mahomes
It
is
don't
off
make
the
you an idiot if you don't take Mahomes.
yeah, it kind of does.
Mahomes fell off a lot this year.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
He went to a Super Bowl. You can't say he fell off.
He lost one game in the regular season.
Yeah.
I look at intangibles though when I'm building a team, and like Jalen's on my list because of that. Because I think he's shown he can be a passer. The first year he was the starter, they used him a lot in the passing game, and then they developed it this way to more towards the running game as they went. They basically built that team around Hurts. That's not what they're talking about though. They're saying that Hurts they built it around Hurts.
Yeah.
But they're not giving him that credit. They're not giving him any credit whatsoever because he has this great team around him. Oh, that's the only reason he won a Super Bowl.
Okay.
No, not necessarily. If it wasn't for him, they probably wouldn't be on this run. I don't see it.
Like we said, if Josh Allen was playing there, or even Herbert was playing there, they'd probably still be on the same run.
I think I would take Hurts over Allen. And the reason that is
No
because
way.
I think Allen cares a little bit more about stats.
What about Herbert?
Herbert? I would take Hurts over Herbert any day. Because Herbert just hasn't proven he can win the big game.
Okay, but see, here's my thing. Okay. Hurts took him to the Super Bowl a few years ago.
Yep.
Okay. And
legitimately played a good
he
game.
played good. He had that one fumble.
He had one fumble that cost
him.
him. Yep.
Okay. Now,
But they missed a face mask on that game too. But that's okay. His fumble did hurt them. But
Yes.
in reality, it should have been called back.
Now, let's go back to this year. And you were talking about the run they went on.
Yeah.
Was it more him or was it more Saquon?
It was more him. Do
It
you
was
know why?
more
Because there was no turnovers until the Super Bowl. There were no turnovers
Okay.
until the Super Bowl.
But Saquon didn't fumble the ball.
No, but Hurts didn't throw an interception either. He
But he
didn't
did.
run. He didn't fumble.
But against the Rams and the Commanders, he didn't have to throw. They didn't take Saquon away.
Okay, so
If
this
you
is
look.
this is where I'm getting to the point where it's getting ridiculous. Because does it really matter what he passed for? He could have 150 yards and win a Super Bowl, and he's still a good quarterback.
You hearing this? Keep going.
No, seriously.
Seriously?
No, I'm dead serious.
Stats don't matter.
They matter to an extent,
But
but they don't.
We have this argument all the
To-
time.
to me,
Except I'm the
stats-
one telling you that
the
the
stats
stats are
that
just kind
matter.
of fluff.
The stats that matter as a quarterback are the turnovers
Mm-hmm.
and your win-loss percentage. They're
And he
the
led
main
his
ones.
team. And he did all those things this year.
Yeah,
he
all I'm
did.
asking-
He
all
cut
I'm
his-
asking
he
is
played.
people-
He played clean, and he was a team leader. He was an emotional leader when he was on that field, and he kept everybody calm and pushed in the right directions.
Yeah.
Hurts played very well this year.
He was business. He was
did
business
play.
this year.
He did play well this year, but he didn't have the pressure of carrying that team
No.
this year
No, he didn't.
because of Saquon coming in.
But did anybody see Saquon doing this? No.
At the beginning of the year, hell no.
Hell no, I didn't either.
But if Saquon doesn't have the year he has and doesn't do the things he did
Okay.
this year,
Now wait a minute. At the beginning of the year, the reason why we didn't think Saquon was going to have this year is because we expected him to get hurt.
exactly.
He never got hurt.
He never got hurt.
Right.
I mean,
He played every game
Wait.
except for the ones he sat out.
The moment
and he sat out because it was over. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't.
the
Yeah,
moment
he didn't get hurt. That's the only reason he had this year. He was had this type of year at the Giants, but he got hurt. And then I mean, because
And
he was on those paces.
it's a shame he didn't win MVP. He should have won MVP. I don't care who you are. There's no reason he should not have won MVP. The only reason he didn't is because he's not a quarterback. That is the only reason.
You don't think it's because he plays for Philadelphia?
It shouldn't matter.
It kind of does.
No, it doesn't. Because obviously they can't just plug any running back in and do that.
No, you can't.
I'm just saying,
he
like-
is the elite running back, active.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Philly's tried to put
And if he
Stuff.
stays,
Miles Sanders.
they
And
tried
if-
to put Miles Sanders.
and
They
if he
tried,
stays healthy, if you put that quote on there, right? Him and McCaffrey, it's still him over McCaffrey.
right.
But up until this year, neither of them could stay healthy.
No.
Right.
But
And
if you look at it, Saquon got them to the playoffs, right?
Yes, and he
Got
got,
him
through the
through the
first three.
playoffs.
Yep.
But when rubber hit the road,
Well,
who won it?
the defense.
Yes.
The
I agree.
defense won the game.
No, the
The
defense.
defense
was,
controlled the game, won the game,
That
and
was-
destroyed the game.
that was the biggest difference from 2 years ago. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The biggest difference. But because that's what let Philly down 2 years ago was the defense. Because they legitimately could have won that game pretty easily if the defense would have played better. Because if you look at the Super Bowl 2 years ago, both touchdowns were on wide open passes.
Yeah.
That's a breakdown in your defense. That's
Right.
not talent necessarily. You can't let somebody be wide open 10 yards.
Philadelphia's
Super Bowl twice.
defense played an elite game.
Yes. So if they
The offense did not play an elite game in the Super Bowl. The defense did.
the offense played.
How
The,
do
de-
you not
the,
say
de- the,
elite.
de- the defense literally, when it comes to defensive performances in the Super Bowl, rivaled the Baltimore Ravens. What was that, 2003, 2004 when they beat the Seattle Giants?
0-1.
Oh, wow.
0-1. That performance and the Philadelphia performance, those rivaled each other.
Yeah, they held Mahomes to 24 yards.
Absolutely.
23 yards in the first half.
And that, in a nutshell, is why Philadelphia won the Super Bowl.
I'm not taking that. No, I'm not saying that. But
And you can't give credit to anything else.
but no, look at it. Look at it though. So these were the top two teams going, or top two defenses going into the Super Bowl, right?
Yep,
Okay. Philly did their job.
absolutely.
Now, can you take it away from Philly's offense?
Overwhelmingly did their job.
So, are you taking away from Philly's offense or Chiefs defense?
You're not taking anything
Seriously.
away from either of them or giving it to the Kansas City defense. Philadelphia's defense played elite and took over the game.
I think what you're trying to say is Philly played an elite game. Period.
You get
It didn't matter.
You only give up 23 yards, and you have the ball for over 20 minutes in the first half. Your defense, your offense is going to look halfway decent because they got multiple tries.
Well, Philly probably would have scored on the opening drive if it wasn't for a terrible pass interference call.
yeah, that was a bad call.
That was terrible.
I really thought the Chiefs got their
And then the
rest
Chiefs,
day.
they had to make a call.
Do they score on that second one if they don't call that illegal hit to the head on?
But was that makeup for the pass interference? The
Yeah.
pass interference was blatantly
After
called.
those two calls, though, I thought it was called well.
Yeah.
I think they calmed down. For sure.
Yes.
I think the only reason they
But
called offensive pass
Honestly, they
interference,
didn't have to call anything.
I think the only reason they called offensive pass
I,
interference.
no,
on
I think the
AJ
refs realized that there was no call they could make that was going to make the Chiefs win. So there's no reason to put their asses out there on the line because they couldn't help.
I think the only reason they called that on AJ is because he put his hand in the guy's face mask.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the refs saw running
But
behind
still,
him.
God, that was a weak call.
It was terrible.
It was.
terrible
Even
call.
Tom Brady was like, "That's a bad call."
But the next one that went against Kansas City was a bad call too.
Yes, it was.
You know, and it led to the Eagles. But
Right.
how many field goals did the Eagles kick in that game?
4, 5, somewhere.
Four.
4.
Because
Right.
the over-under was 4.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's 4 or 5, 1 and 2.
Right. And so here's the thing. If you want to talk about playing in an elite game on offense, should those have been converted into touchdowns?
But they started kicking late in the game.
Yeah.
They started kicking field goals late in the game. He had 3 or 4 in the second half.
But the deal is the defense ran the day.
And they put Hurts in great situation where he
Absolutely.
didn't have to.
And he was never under pressure because of the situation.
Right.
Hey, if he was on a third down and didn't make it, that's okay. Punt. Our defense could get the ball right back.
Yeah.
Going back to your point with putting any quarterback in,
Mm-hmm.
what is the easiest way to beat a quarterback? You got to pressure him. Get him pressured, get him rattled.
Get moving.
Any quarterback, you're right, would do better behind that offensive line.
Okay.
They have the best offensive line in football.
Yeah.
Period.
They're massive.
So, yes, I would say that any other quarterback would have, that's a starter now, would have a shot to do something, but I don't think it goes 15 deep. I think it's 8 to 10 deep.
And I'll agree with you on that. I mean, I'm not saying Hurts is the worst quarterback in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just not putting him top
15.
3 to 5 right now.
Oh, he's nowhere near that. He's
That's what I just
questionable.
said.
He's
I'm not
questionable
putting him
for.
there.
He's questionable being the top 10.
I mean, but
God, I can't wait till we have that.
I can't wait to that conversation.
Yeah.
That'll be our next
we,
show.
we gotta start wrapping this up.
That's
You
our
know,
next show.
it was a great year.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for coming around and listening to us week in, week out. Thanks for tuning in today and catching our recap of it. And I just want everyone to know that I won the pick'em this year by 2. So just so that's out there.
no, you didn't.
I wondered if you all paid attention.
I won.
I know, by 2.
But we would like to thank the
The Strop.
Strop. They are an authentic barber shop with straight razor shaves and competitive prices, and they are veteran owned. So please support that place as well as Scott's Lawn Care. They take care of the greater Beatrice area, free estimates, and they do have snow and lawn services both available there. We'd like to thank them for being great sponsors. Please smash that like button. Hit that like button. Go to all of our social media, please, if you do enjoy this. We are trying to gain as many people in this area to join in and watch Tailgate Talk. And we're not done.
No.
We are not done, people. We are going to continue this. We're going to be talking off-season moves. We're going to go through some of these things you've heard us talk about elite teams, about elite quarterbacks.
Running
We're gonna
backs,
be-
wide receivers,
We're
defenses.
going to be going through all of that.
We're gonna have a March Madness special.
But I would like to say, and I know a lot of you that are in Husker land have heard of this man. Kansas State fans have heard of this man. I got the chance to meet him a couple times. One of the nicest and greatest people you would ever meet, and one of the greatest play-by-play voices you ever heard coming through the radio. Greg Sharp, passing away at 61 years old. He was the voice of the Huskers for the last, I believe, 20 years or something like that. Just a true great gentleman. Our thoughts, prayers, condolences go out to the Sharp family. Greg will be missed. It will not be the same listening to Nebraska football on the radio without that voice rolling through there. Just a devastating loss to everyone that is a fan of Nebraska. Also, K-State. Greg Sharp started down at Kansas State. He was there before he came up here to Nebraska, and I just wanted to throw that out there because he is a true legend in the radio broadcasting community.
Yep.
So, but we will be back. Just check our Facebook page, check our website, check everything. We will let you know when our next broadcast is going to be, but we're going to keep this going because we want to bring you. We say we know sports, so we're going to start bringing you
All
more
sports.
than just football. We're going to talk baseball, basketball. May not get into soccer and hockey as much, but we're going to cover the big ones, and we will bring those to you. But thank you for tuning in this Sunday morning. Go enjoy the rest of your day. You've been watching Tailgate Talk, and
We know sports.